And we are live here. We are dual streaming it tonight on the Nickel City Mafia channel for Rush Hour, and of course, the Fins Forecast. Some familiar faces on the line. And for those of you who don't know me, this is my second stint here hosting on the channel, but I'm glad to do so. The good news is I've got a lot of support from our all-star cast of panelists here tonight to diagnose what teams should be doing for the draft in 2025. We'll go right down the line. Our boy Jake in Buffalo. Jake, how you doing tonight?
Fantastic tone. It's a great day. Very excited. The Pirates avoided a sweep against the Yankees, so I had to wear the Pirates hat because I know Mike's a huge Yankees fan. Crosstown rivals of Keith's Phillies, so I'm bringing the heat tonight and ready to talk about my Buffalo Bills as well. So very fired up. We're going to talk about the whole league too, so even better.
Yeah, I mean, Jake, I never have to worry about you bringing the energy, bringing the information. Nobody knows more about the most obscure college football players than you, my friend. So I'm very glad you're here to hold us all up and keep us accountable so we make sure we don't make any mistakes when we're talking about these guys. But a great segue into our boy Keith in Philly, burning the midnight oil. Keith, what's going on, man?
Oh, not much, man. It's great to do a show with you. I've heard great things, and
All lies, all lies. Just
oh
throwing
yeah,
it out there.
I'm sure. But now the Phillies, they just took 2 or 3 from the Dodgers, the mighty Murderers Row Dodgers. So it's good times here in Philly, and I'm looking forward to talking some NFL draft. I love doing these mock drafts with you guys, so it's gonna be a good night.
It's an exciting time. You know, the first kind of month and a half of Major League Baseball is fantastic. It's really weird because the first month of the MLB and kind of the last month of the playoffs or that stretch before you get to the playoffs is the most exciting time. You have this lull, of course, in the middle of the season because they play, 6,000 games every year. But it is interesting because it's so much fun to kind of watch your team either struggle or have success early on in the season. And it's like, dude, you got 3 more months of games. It's okay, but it is interesting. I did purchase the MLB package. I had a big party at the house today, and we watched the San Diego Padres lose one against the Cubs today, which is fine. But Mike, we're not talking baseball here tonight. We're here to talk football. We're here to talk about the draft. The draft's in 2 weeks, and I'm excited to talk with you guys tonight. What's going on with you, Mike?
I'm excited with the draft. What we say, 3 weeks away, and streaming to the Fins Forecast. We're going to be streaming live with them day 1 and day 2 of the NFL draft, and this is a proof that Bills fans and Dolphins fans can get along and be friends. My best friend I was counting at this just recently. 40 years, Troy. 40 years ago, I met that man working at a sporting goods store, and he said he was a Dolphins fan. I almost walked out on the interview, but I stayed there because he was the manager back then. And we talked, and we've been friends ever since. He's a good dude. Some of you guys have seen him already. You've met him. You've actually met him, Tony.
For those of you that don't know Troy, he's also a closet Donald Trump impersonator.
Oh,
Like if you
don't
saw a
say
picture
that.
of
Is he
Troy,
really?
he's a dead ringer for like a shorter version of Donald Trump. And by the way, he
Wow.
absolutely detests Donald Trump, so he can't stand when people throw that out. But Mike's even told me a story where previously he had some, I don't know if you know this, but Mike's a ladies' man. Like Mike's life, his trajectory
I can see
settled
it.
down.
Oh yeah,
He settled down in his old age. Again, he's 60-something years old now, Mike.
60,
Right? You're collecting
60.
collecting
Damn.
Social Security, but Mike's lived a full life. And in one of the previous relationships, the gal that he was dating, one of their daughters was like, "Is that Donald Trump?" When they met Troy the first time. Mike's told me that story, and so Troy can't stand Donald Trump, but he had the full comb over for a little while. Then when Trump wins the presidency, he shaves his head because he wants nothing to do with the whole thing. So
that's
I love
hilarious.
Troy. Troy's the man. We got to get Troy
Dude.
on the pod. That's what we need to do.
He's going to be so upset that you're even saying this stuff.
good.
He tries to change his look. Now, if you saw him today, it's different. It doesn't look as much, but yeah, a few years back, oh my goodness. I told him, we joked around, he can make money impersonating Trump.
100%. We tried to hire him to come to our company party one year dressed as Donald Trump, and he refused.
Oh, that's
to do
hilarious.
It. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, but anyways, let's set some ground rules for today. Today we're going to go through the draft picks 1 through 30, all the teams in the first round. And the way that we're going to do it is we're going to throw it out. Our 3 panelists are experts on the NFL. We'll make a pick. They will be the acting GM. And so through picks 1 through 10, no trades, just straight up picking guys out of college football who you think they need based off all the information data that we've collected here over the last year. And you guys will make a selection. We'll throw it to a second panelist. That panelist can either agree with you or tell you why you're wrong. And if we get dissension between our two panelists, we'll throw it to the third one to make a definitive selection on the pick for that team. Once we get through picks 1 through 10, we'll go down and each of you guys will make a selection and give us a brief statement about why you think this is the selection and who it is. And then we'll bust into the last 10 picks in the draft in the lightning round based on how the draft board develops. Each of you guys will make a selection for the teams. Keith, I've been nice enough to hand you the Dolphins, so you will have that selection. And of course, Jake, because
much appreciated.
because I gave Mike the first pick, Jake, you will be drafting for the Buffalo Bills. So, boys, any questions about the format or style and how we will attack this tonight?
No, I think we're good. This is going to be interesting. This is going to be fun.
Absolutely. And as we always say, make sure you drop a nickel on the subscribe button. Any of you watching this live, ask questions, give feedback, tell us where our panelists got it wrong. And then, of course, we will reconcile our picks against the actual draft when it happens in 3 weeks and see how right or wrong our teams were. It is an interesting board because there are some players that we're not sure if they're going to end up in picks 1, 2, or 3 or fall out of the first round. But Mike, let's go ahead and jump into it. The Tennessee Titans, they finished 3-14. I think for much of the latter part of the season, everybody thought that Carolina was the worst team in football. Turns out it was the Tennessee Titans. They are fresh off of drafting Will Levis here, 3 or 4 years ago. That experiment has gone bad like mayonnaise in the sun. And so here they are with the first pick in the draft, getting ready to make another selection. The consensus pick seems to be Cam Ward at quarterback. But Mike, who are the Tennessee Titans picking with the number 1 pick overall?
All right, it wouldn't be a good show if I just went with the consensus and said they're going with Cam Ward. I don't know if it's me. Hopefully there's other people that agree. He's not the best player. He's not the best generational talent in this draft. And I just don't see him as the number 1 pick. If we were trading, I would be trading back to the Giants and taking their 3rd pick and getting a bunch of stuff from the Giants. But we're not doing that. So let me give you some information. So Cam Ward, he plays in the ACC. Last year, every team he played, he only played one top 25 team, and that was Syracuse. And they lost to Syracuse. So there you go. And ACC, what? They're like the 3rd ranked college conference, Jake. I don't know. You're not there.
I don't know.
SEC.
I don't even know
There's
about that.
Another one. But all the teams that they play, yeah, he lit it up. He had put up great numbers. But again, I'm not looking at I look at those teams. If you're not a top 25 team, I'm not holding much weight to that. He's got small hands. And you know what they say about small hands, everyone? Yeah, don't get your head out of the gutter, Tony. We're talking about fumbles, fumbleitis. And yes, he struggled with fumbles last year, not last year, 2 years ago. He kind of cleaned it up last year. But when it's in January and it's cold, look at Lamar Jackson. Lamar hates the cold and makes mistakes in critical situations. And when that ball's cold, those small hands are going to come into play. This is funny. I'm just going to throw this out there because this was Shady McCoy saying he had a problem with Cam Lewis being number 1 because he was a 0-star recruit coming out of high school. I'm like, come on, Shady. But he really was. He was making a point like, I have a problem with a 0-star recruit. But hey, there's a lot of young kids out there that don't get recognized in high school and they make themselves recognized in college. So I'm not going to put a whole lot of weight there. So for me, the guy that's the generational talent that you should be taking is Abdul Carter. They just lost Landry. They just lost Landry this year. He moves on in free agency. They have a very good defensive line. I take Abdul Carter all day here. I also think that the O-line for the Titans, they need some work. If you do draft Cam Ward, it's no likelihood that he succeeds. I think he gets his butt whooped with that O-line that's in front of him and could hurt his confidence and other things. So, again, Abdul Carter from me. Take it, and you have a stout defensive line. Stout. And that makes everyone behind you even that much better. And I say, Will Levis or, draft somebody like, what do I got? I got some names up here for you to take. Let's see here. Take Jackson Dirt. He's kind of considered the third best quarterback in this class. You got Jalen Milroe from Bama or Will Howard. Get somebody else later. And I'm not saying it's okay for them to get beat up behind that offensive line, but I'm just saying take the best player available, Abdul Carter.
Wow. So right off the shoot, Mike throws a curveball. He makes his feelings known about cold balls and small hands, Keith. And so here we are, Abdul Carter, the selection, obviously the consensus best edge player in the draft. I had the privilege of watching him play against my Boise State Broncos in the Fiesta Bowl. The kid is an absolute beast. And again, probably a generational talent. I will say this, in a draft class that is starved of quarterback talent, but very deep in edge, it's one of those positions where it's like, man, you're getting the best guy off the board in a position, but it is also the deepest position in this draft, arguably. But Mike throws everything to the wind, and here we are. Cam Ward, not the selection. Keith, do you agree with Mike? Do we take Abdul Carter with the first pick, or do we bring some sanity back to this show and take our man that everybody thinks they should be taking in Cam Ward from the University of Miami?
Yeah, I do have to disagree with Mike on this one. I love Abdul Carter. I love Travis Hunter. These guys are generational type talents, I think. But when you're a team drafting first overall, you need a quarterback. There's a quarterback who is worthy of going number one overall. And I believe Cam Ward is that guy. You draft Cam Ward. Guy threw for 4,300 yards, 39 touchdowns, 7 interceptions last year, 88.7 QBR. Mike mentioned the loss to Syracuse. He was 25 of 36, 349 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. They lost that game 42-38. That game, that loss is not on Cam Ward. So I'm just tossing that out there right now. Like that's not on Cam Ward. That is on their defense, which was a sieve all year long. When he was winning games, they were giving up 31 points, 41 points. It's just, you don't overthink it. I love Abdul Carter, but you can't replace the quarterback production. It's the most important position probably in all of football. So I would go with Cam Ward here.
All right, Jake. Keith disagrees with Mike. So off the shoot, we thought we'd be 5 minutes in the show and through 5 picks. Guess what? We're 13 minutes in and we're arguing about the first pick in the draft. So we should finish it sometime around 3 a.m. But you've got Abdul Carter from Mike. You've got Cam Ward from Keith. Jake, tell us who will be the selection number one in the draft come draft. What is it? Thursday, right? I think the draft starts on Thursday this year.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Thursday, April 24th. Yes.
April 24th. Who will
right.
the Tennessee Titans be selecting with the first overall pick?
Well, as much as I love Mike's reasoning, and while I do think Abdul Carter could be like a throwback Titan and Javon Curse, the freak, if you guys remember, absolute freak of nature. I mean, so damn good with the Titans, had a hell of a career. I think it'd be a great pick, Mike, but I do think because there is a quarterback that is the basically consensus number one overall pick, it's going to be Cam Ward. And I'll tell you this, the Titans have not landed on a first-round selection at the quarterback position in the first round, really since Steve McNair. No disrespect to Marcus Mariota. I know he took him to playoffs and everything, kind of banked on that defense, that run game coaching. He was okay. He was a good, serviceable guy, right? But you look at the history, and it's tough, man. I mean, Marcus Mariota at 2 overall. Then before that, it was Jake Locker. Before that, it was Vince Young. Before that, Steve Air McNair. And Air McNair was a great one, man. I mean, not necessarily a Hall of Famer, but very, very good. Yeah. And very interesting stat, because I like to bring some sabermetric stats to the show. Steve Air McNair, 6'2", 220. Cam Ward, 6'2", 219. So is this the second coming of Air McNair? We'll see. But I'll tell you this, I like Cam Ward a lot because while he is more of a timing passer, he is just as much of an improviser as well. So his offensive line didn't necessarily play the greatest. You see a lot of times where he's bailing out of the pocket and he's making things happen on his own. And like I said, very good with timing routes and stuff like that, but also very good at improvising. So to me, I feel like it would be a shoo-in. It just makes a lot of sense here. And I love your reasoning for Abdul Carter, Mike, but I'm going to disagree. I'm going Cam Ward at number 1 for the Titans.
Beautifully done, folks. So Cam Ward off the board with the Tennessee Titans. Our expert panelists have agreed with the consensus pick. And so we find ourselves with pick 2. Jake, we're going to continue on with you here with the Cleveland Browns. A ton of issues, a team that has made some terrible front office decisions here over the last 4 or 5 years, kind of reeling. They were able to keep Myles Garrett on the squad, but again, they need a lot. They need a QB as well. They have holes on the offensive line. They need an edge. They need a running back. I mean, again, you could kind of pick your poison here, but what do the Cleveland Browns do with the second pick, knowing that Cam Ward's off the board and some dissension about who's the next best guy on the board from a quarterback's perspective? Do they go quarterback? Do they go somewhere else? Where does Cleveland land here with the second pick overall?
Yeah, I want to go Abdul Carter here as well, and I think the logic makes a lot of sense. I mean, you got Myles Garrett and then Isaiah McGuire as your other defensive end, so it makes a lot of sense to go Abdul Carter. I know he's like the consensus pick, but I'm going to go a different direction. I've been hearing a lot of rumors that Travis Hunter is going to be at number 2 there, and he's going to be taken by the Cleveland Browns. So, and it makes sense. So, I mean, you look at who they have as the cornerback unit kind of evolves there in Cleveland. They have Denzel Ward, who's locked up, who's great. And I like Martin Emerson a lot. I like Greg Newsome. But to me, Hunter fits more as a corner in the NFL and a guy that's going to play receiver, 10 to 15 snaps a game. So you could sprinkle him in there too. So he could also, he could act as your number 2 if you want him to be. I mean, you got him and Jerry Jeudy, or he'll probably be your number 1 there. And I like Jerry Jeudy. He had a great year. But to me, he fills 2 needs, receiver and corner there. And, it does make a lot of sense when you dive deep into it. So seeing all these rumors saying, hey, Travis Hunter to the Browns, it's starting to make a little more sense to me. And I think the Browns want to make a splash move, whereas, they could take Abdul Carter, who I think is the safer, I guess maybe not safer pick, but the less sexy pick in this situation. But Travis Hunter, to me, it makes sense. It fills 2 voids for them. And I think it's a great move. He could be wide receiver 1 and cornerback 1. So why not take him at 2? Don't go quarterback. Shedeur Sanders does not want to play in Cleveland.
I love the pick. I mean, he's basically Charles Woodson 2.0. There was no question he was the best cornerback in football. And again, at Colorado, they were a depleted offense, and so they needed to have their best player, who was Travis Hunter, on the field as much as possible. So it makes sense that he wins the Heisman Trophy over my boy, Austin Genty, who I thought, again, other than Hunter, there was no question that Genty should have won the Heisman this year. But Mike, Jake shit all over your pick of Abdul Carter. We're here. Abdul Carter's still on the board. You wanted to draft him 1, and here we are with 2. Cleveland, Abdul Carter's aboard. Jake says, no, we got to go with Hunter because he fills potentially 2 open slots for us as the Cleveland Browns. Do you stick with Carter and with Jake, or do you go with your boy Abdul Carter?
Well, I'm steaming that Jake didn't give me any support whatsoever. The greatest quarterback out of University of Miami was Jim Kelly. Yeah, you're Bernie Kosar, but Jim Kelly, and I just don't see another guy like Jim. But let's go to this one. I'm kind of torn here. They need to get some protection for Kenny Pickett, whoever is at that helm. My brain says take Armand Membu, tackle, and call it a day. But how do you pass up a talent like Travis Hunter? So, Jake, I'm going to say this first. I'm going to say Abdul Carter would be a great pairing with Myles Garrett. Oh, my goodness. Can you imagine those 2 playing together? But, Jake, I'm in agreement with you. You can't pass up a generational talent like Travis Hunter. Cornerback, wide receiver, wherever you want to use them, this dude is good. I'm in agreement with you, Jake. See how I supported you, buddy?
I like that, Mike. And listen, no disrespect. I love you.
Well, hey, we have our first agreement. That's fantastic. Travis Hunter goes off the board. This leaves potentially the Giants reeling because I think they were hoping Hunter would fall to them with 3. There's been rumors about Shedeur Sanders potentially going in this pick. There's been rumors about Sanders dropping all the way out of the first round. Keith, we're going to put you in the spotlight. The Giants have the pick. Travis Hunter's off the board. Abdul Carter, who we thought might go number one. We had some ballyhoo from Mike about him going to Tennessee with the number one pick overall. He's there. You've got Sanders. Kind of the world is your oyster. The board has fallen in kind of a weird spot. So Keith, you're the GM for the Giants. Where do we go here?
Well, if I'm the GM. Look, I don't like Shedeur Sanders. I'm going to say that right out. I don't like Shedeur Sanders. There are things that you can do as a quarterback, as the face of your team. The one thing you cannot do is call out your offensive line, which is exactly what Shedeur Sanders did last year with Colorado. I don't agree with it. I don't like it. It speaks to an underlying entitlement issue, an underlying maturity issue with Shedeur Sanders that would scare me away as an NFL GM. So, who am I going to take? I'm going for Abdul Carter here. I love Abdul Carter. I think he's a generational type of pass rusher. I probably would have drafted him to the Browns, but if he's still available for the Giants, I'm running to the podium. Pair him with Kayvon Thibodeau, and reap the rewards for years to come. So Abdul Carter is my pick for the New York Giants.
I love the pick. I mean, we were making arguments, Jake, about him potentially being the number one pick overall. Mike was foaming out the mouth to send him to Tennessee. Here we are. He falls to the Giants with the third pick overall. Keith runs to the podium and says, sign us up. We're going back to that year when we went to the Super Bowl and had the best defensive line in football. Nobody gave us a chance to the Patriots. And guess what? Because our defensive line was so good, we're going to rebuild that again. We're doing it 2.0. They draft Abdul Carter with the third pick overall. Jake, do you agree? Do they take Carter or do they pivot? And do you see somebody like Sanders or maybe a wide receiver, an offensive lineman in this spot?
So the Shedeur Sanders pick made more sense when they just had Jameis Winston at quarterback, but they now have Russell Wilson and Tommy Cutlets. Don't forget about him, Tommy DeVito. Okay, so you got three quarterbacks, and you're just going to crowd that room even more with a rookie, and I feel like that's just going to be a hostile type of situation. So already, I actually do like Shedeur. I think he will be okay in the NFL. I don't think the Giants are the right fit for him. So I'm going to avoid that altogether. I love what Keith said about pairing Abdul Carter with Kayvon Thibodeau. And by the way, not just Kayvon Thibodeau, Keith, Brian Burns too.
Yes,
so
sir.
You got two stud edge guys. And when the Giants won the Super Bowl, they had three absolute studs rushing the passer in Michael Strahan, Osi Umenyiora, and Justin Tuck. Yep. So it makes a lot of sense here. I mean, you could do a little rotational thing. It's going to be interesting to see how that kind of works out because all of them are relatively young. But, yeah, I mean, the Abdul Carter pick makes a lot of sense. My other thought would be maybe Mason Graham to pair on that D-line. You put him next to Dexter Lawrence, which really, talk about impacting an offensive line. I mean, you got Mason Graham, you got Dexter Lawrence. They also have Nunez Roches, who's a pretty good player too. And then you got the two edge guys. So I think Mason Graham would be my second pick here, but I'm going to go with you. I think you go best available, pair that edge guy. And by the way, who did the Giants beat in both of those Super Bowls? The New England Patriots. So Let's do it. Let's take Abdul Carter at 3.
Abdul Carter to the New York Giants. And again, this is how the draft board falls sometimes, like where there's these clear picks that everybody believes is going to happen. And all of a sudden you get a guy like Abdul Carter that falls into your lap. Jake, I couldn't have asked for a better segue. You talked about the New England Patriots and the New York Giants. And here we are with the 4th pick in the draft, the New England Patriots. And so Mike, back at the top of the board, you're the GM for the Patriots. You drafted your quarterback last year in Drake May. You obviously have made some moves to bring in some guys like Diggs. There are still needs along the offensive line. They had some protection problems that were highly, highly publicized. Do you think the Patriots go with an offensive tackle or potentially go with a weapon, somebody that they can pair with Diggs to try and give Drake May some more options on the offensive side of the ball, or with Mike Vrabel, the defensive coach, do they go defense with the number 4 pick overall?
You gave me a lot of crap for going on the first pick, so I'm going to be short about this. This is a no-brainer. Drake May needs some help up front. They're going tackle, and they're going. For me, I'm not going with Will Campbell. I'm going with Membu.
Nice. Okay, so
Membu.
So Will Campbell is the consensus best tackle in the draft, according to most scouts. But again, Membu presents some different, what would I say, upside just physically in being just a massive human being, right? So it's like, hey, his footwork might not be as good as Will Campbell's. He may not be as devastating a blocker, but there's a bigger platform and higher potential with a pick like him here. Keith, do you agree with Mike? Do they go with Membu, or they go right along the line and draft Campbell here, or do they not go offensive line? Do they go get a weapon for him?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, Armand Membu is my favorite offensive lineman in this draft. I absolutely love the way this guy moves at his size. He ran a sub 540 at the combine at 330 pounds. That is damn impressive, boys. That is so impressive. He is an impressive athlete. I like Will Campbell a lot, but Armand Membu, and I'm a big offensive line guy, Tony. You guys know this about me. I love offensive linemen. I want the Dolphins to draft an offensive lineman. I don't know if they're going to. I don't know if the board's going to fall that way. But I agree with Mike here, man. Armand Membu is the easy pick for the Patriots. This guy's a lump of clay, a lump of talented clay. If you can mold him, you've got an all-pro. So Armand Membu, mark it down.
Love it. So we've got some agreement here for the Patriots going tackle, sharing up the offensive line for Drake May, giving him the protection that he absolutely needs up front. Jake, where to Jacksonville, a team that finds themselves at a bit of a crossroads, right? Like, people were really excited about Jacksonville 4 or 5 years ago. Obviously, they felt like they brought in their generational quarterback. It hasn't necessarily worked out that way, but they're not willing to give up on it yet. They have a number of needs. This is a team that went 4-13 last year. They need some help up front on the defensive line. They need some help in the defensive backfield. And so where do we go here? If you're the pick, if you've got this, the 5th pick, Jacksonville, the board has fallen to you where we're seeing a quarterback, the best athlete in the draft, the best edge in the draft, and now arguably the most impressive physical specimen at offensive tackle. Where do the Jacksonville Jaguars go here with this pick?
I'm going to go with the guy who has the best leverage in this draft, and that's Mason Graham here as the interior defensive tackle, prototypical 3-tech. The guy is going to be a perfect fit in Jacksonville. To me, you pair him with both Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines Allen. You have one of the best defensive lines in football. By the way, they have Eric Armstead, Devon Hamilton, Mason Smith as well. So you got some absolute dogs along that D-line, and I think this solidifies them as probably the best defensive line in football as you go and get the guy like Mason Graham, who, by the way, he's 6'3", 320, but he plays very low pad level. I mean, just a freak of nature, stopping the run. And by the way, he's a pass rush specialist too. So the guy can do it all. It's a great pick for Jacksonville, and it's the right move here at 5.
I love the pick. He's the best interior defensive lineman without question in the draft. You like Mason Graham. What do you think, Mike? Mike, is this a no-brainer? Did they take Graham, or did they go somewhere else with this pick?
So Jacksonville's defense was 28th overall last year. Absolutely horrible. They were 8th worst against the run. You've got to shore up that defense. And yes, Mason Graham. And look, this is funny. Like, I'm agreeing with everything Jake says. I wish he'd give me the support. But Mason Graham, I'm running to the podium, hands down. I mean, love this guy. Love him.
Yeah, Mason Graham, I think this is probably the pick for me of all of the first-round selections. This is the one that probably makes the most sense based off of who is picking in front of the Jaguars and where the biggest area of need is. I love it. I think it's a great pick. I will say this, and, again, it's brought up here by our friends at Go Bills podcast. The Jaguars could use some weapons. So I could, if there's a spot here, and again, the kid from Arizona, again, I don't even know how to say his first name. Tetaroa McMillan. I'm not even sure how to say it, but a big-bodied kid who can go up and make plays, like, that's a game changer for you right there. So I understand why McMillan might be the pick here, but I would say if it was me that it has to be Graham. But let's go to Jacksonville here, Jake, or excuse me, to Las Vegas, Keith. I apologize. Yep. The Raiders are known for doing the craziest, weirdest things. It's been more than rumored that Genty is the pick here. But again, this is the Raiders. This is the Davis family, and it's Las Vegas. The board has fallen this way. You've got potentially a generational player at wide receiver sitting there. And I know that they made a bunch of moves in the offseason to bring Geno Smith in now. They bring in the new coach. There's a win now mentality. Who do the Raiders take with this pick?
Well, like you said, Pete Carroll is now in Las Vegas. And Pete Carroll's glory years with USC, who was his running back, Reggie Bush, one of the all-time greats in college football. His glory years in Seattle, who was his running back, Marshawn Lynch. Guy loves himself some running backs. He loves the running game. And honestly, this is a move that I think Al Davis would be giving the thumbs up to from the grave. Ashton Jeanty. Ashton Jeanty's the pick here. I think it's pretty easy because I think Ashton Jeanty is a potentially generational type of running back. Like, he's going to be 5 years from now, we're probably going to be saying he's the best in the league. He's an absolute beast between the tackles. I love Ashton Jeanty. So yeah, Ashton Jeanty for the Raiders.
I mean, I love the pick. As a Boise State Bronco, I love the kid. I think he's fantastic. I will say this, Jake, when you talk about Jeanty and you look at all of the draft grades, clearly he is head and shoulders above everyone else in this class. Like, it's not even close. Even though we talked about Cam Ward being clearly the best quarterback in the draft, at a player profile from a position perspective, Jeanty is a leap and a bound above the next guy in terms of grading, where people think he is, where he should be drafted. I will say this. He's 5'9". He's not a, 5'11", 6-foot big-bodied guy. I watched him in the Fiesta Bowl struggle against a very, very good Penn State team. And again, I'm not trying to compare what he did there about what his abilities are in the future. But again, if I'm thinking about that, I wonder if at all the Raiders look at him and say, do we have concerns about him being 5'9", being able to be a bell cow, three down back? Do you think they stay with Jeanty? Do you agree with Keith, or do they go another direction?
100% agree with Keith. You know who else was 5'9", Tone, was LaDainian Tomlinson, who, by the way, I've heard comps for Ashton Jeanty to LT. So very, very high praise on that young man. He deserves everything that comes his way. Not sure if he's as good of a receiving back as LT. Kind of a different type of back, I feel like, but definitely a bell cow back. And you're absolutely right, Keith. You hit the nail on the head. You talk about any team that Pete Carroll has coached, he has had that bell cow running back. Even dating back, you can look at like the Patriots. He had Curtis, my favorite, Martin on that team as his running back. So it's like, to me, it makes a lot of sense. You're giving Geno Smith a little extra support, and you're going to have, another pick later on here. You can take a receiver. It's not in the first round, but still, I think running back Ashton Jeanty, absolutely farther up the board at any positional group than, as far as like the gap in talent. He is the number one guy, sure-handedly, and it's the best move for the Raiders here. Take him at 6.
I love the pick. Like I said, I'm a Boise State homer, so seeing our guy go 5th to the Raiders with the potential to go and watch him a couple times a year, watching him play in the AFC West, like I love the pick. I think he's a great pick. I think he's as close to a surefire no miss pick as there is at any position this year in the draft. Mike, we're on to the next one here. You took the Jets' favorite prospect in Membu away, but Will Campbell falls into your lap at pick 7. The Jets have a ton of needs. They obviously brought in Fields. They've got a ton of weapons on the offensive side of the ball, but they struggled to protect Aaron Rodgers last year. And so do you think the Jets go offensive line, or do you pivot here and bring somebody in on defense? They lost some pretty big guys in the defensive backfield, but where do you think the Jets go here?
Well, it sounds like you're going to answer for me. I mean, might as well just put that out there. Look, it's a no-brainer. Jets O-line was 17th overall last year. And they, at the beginning of the season, this is what we said. Their O-line needed to get better. It didn't. This is why Rodgers struggled so bad. You got Fields back there at quarterback. So you need to get him some help, right? And I'm running to the podium here. And there's two guys. I still don't have Will Campbell as my next best tackle. I have Kelvin Banks from Texas, 6'5", 315.
Wow.
So either him or Will Campbell. Just to make this easy, I guess I'm going to go with Kelvin Banks Jr. from Texas.
Got a little bit farther down the board, but again, Offensive tackle is a very deep position in this draft. And so I think it comes down to scheme and how you want to use guys and how they fit into your system. It's a lot of things that people don't realize. Will Campbell has been graded as the best offensive tackle in this draft. It doesn't mean that he fits in your scheme. It doesn't mean that he's the best guy for your team. But do you agree with him, Jake? Excuse me, Keith, do you think we stay here? Do we take the kid from Texas, or do you think this is Campbell's spot? Like, again, this is a guy that could have went, in the first 3 picks in the draft. He's that level of talent. He's got that kind of draft grade. The comps are all there. Mike pivots, goes another direction. Do you agree with Mike, or do you think this is Will Campbell? Oh, we got you on mute.
My bad. Sorry about that.
Okay.
I like Mike's rationale here. I like Kelvin Banks out of Texas. I will say this: I see Will Campbell as more of a guard prospect. A lot's been made of his arm length and how you need at least 34-inch arms to be a successful tackle in the NFL, to be a Pro Bowl caliber tackle in the NFL. And Will Campbell has 33.5-inch arms. And, he's come out and said the arm length doesn't matter. Arm length does matter. I got news for you. It does. I see him as a guard. I think that's where he's best. He might play tackle in the NFL, but I think he's got Pro Bowl potential at guard, and he'll just be an okay tackle. Whereas Kelvin Banks, I see him as he's got Pro Bowl caliber potential at right tackle, which is where the Jets need him because they drafted Olu Fashanu out of Penn State last year. He's going to be their left tackle. Who played last year for them?
Tyron Smith.
Tyron Smith. Yeah, Tyron Smith. Tyron Smith is now gone.
Yeah.
Olu Fashanu is going to be their left tackle. I think there's an opening at right tackle, and I think Kelvin Banks fits that perfectly. So I like the pick. I think Kelvin Banks is a good pick for the Jets here.
Jake, you see how that's done? You see the agreement there? It's a little bit.
I'm nodding my head. Hey, I'm right there with you. It makes a lot of sense, Mike.
Disagree with you once.
I think right now they have Okafor over there at right tackle. That just isn't going to do.
No.
And so they need somebody, and love the pick. Thanks for agreeing with me there, Keith.
Yeah. So again, we have some disagreements with the overall draft rankings here with where guys are. But Will Campbell now has tumbled from where we thought he would be a top 5 pick. And now we're getting ready to venture into closer to that, the double digits here. But Carolina, a team that was pretty bad. I mean, it got so bad in Carolina that people were ready to run Bryce Young out of town. They turn it around the last 3-4 games of the year. They start to look pretty good versus where they were earlier on. So, Jake, you're here, Carolina. You got a guy like Will Campbell still on the board. Obviously, dude, they need some guys to go make plays. They need playmakers on offense. But again, they also need a ton of defensive help. This is a draft like I talked about off the shoot that's super deep at edge. And so far, we've only had one edge come off the board. There's some big names still available. Where do you go here if you're the Carolina Panthers?
Man, there's a lot of different positions you could look at. You could look at receiver, like Weston's saying. You could look at tight end. But I have a lot of faith in Jatavian Sanders. I think he could be a player in this league. So I'm not going to go Tyler Warren. I wanted to go there initially, but I think I got to go with Jalen Walker. I got to go with the edge here. You got to get help there. I mean, you lose Brian Burns. I think they have Jadeveon Clowney there right now. And then I'm trying to think of DJ Wadham maybe as the other guy as their edge. So you have to get younger there and you have to get an absolute stud. And I think you're hitting the nail on the head if you draft a guy like Walker. And I know he's the consensus guy, but I can't disagree with it whatsoever. It just makes a lot of sense. You build up that defense. You extended J.C. Horn. I think that team could be something special defensively, at least. Derek Brown, one of the better, D tackles in football, and Bobby Brown and Tershawn Wharton, who they signed from KC. So you're building up that defensive line, which is really going to create the foundation for that defense. So to me, it makes a lot of sense here. I know they got some guys in the secondary. Build up that D-line. They're going to make them look even better. So go get Jalen Walker.
Mike, what do you think here? Walker, obviously a difference maker. I think he was a third-team All-American. He was first or second-team All-SEC, played on a very good Georgia team. But he's 6'1", 240. He's not a physically imposing guy, and not that you need to be an edge. But again, we think of these edges that are playing here in the NFL. We think of these just absolute beasts. doesn't really fit that mode. He's a speed guy, high motor, good hands. Do you like him here to the Carolina Panthers, or do you think we get something kind of off the wall from the Panthers with this pick?
Well, I'm not going to go off the wall. I mean, they had the worst defense in the league last year, so you're looking definitely edge or defensive tackle here. I want Keith to chime in here. I kind of like Mikal Williams with his size and versatility. His
Fair.
teammate, Jalen Walker's teammate. I like Michael Williams here in this spot for them because of the size, 6'5", 260. You mentioned it, Jalen Walker, 6'1", 243. Michael Williams will not only give you the pass rush, but also defend the run extremely well. So that's my pick, Michael Williams.
I like it. So we've got our first dissension, our first disagreement. It's not surprising since, Jake completely disregarded everything Mike said and when he gets his pick, that Mike is returning the favor.
I gave him props. I said he was Javon Curse 2.0.
But Keith, you get to be the deciding vote here. Do you go with size, a guy that could potentially play the 5, play the edge, move him inside, put 20 pounds on him? Or do you go with a guy who is clear-cut, the fastest, game-changing style edge still on the board in Jalen Walker? Again, Mike mentioned that they played on the same team. Where do we go here?
So I think there's a distinction that needs to be made here between Jalen Walker. Well, with Jalen Walker, I don't see him as an edge. I see him as an off-ball outside linebacker, which, it's not. He's not an edge. So I think Carolina does need an edge rusher, and when I say that, I think that Michael Williams is probably the better pick for them right now. Jalen Walker to me is, he's a linebacker. He's a guy who can rush the passer occasionally. He's going to be good in coverage. He's going to be good stopping the run, but I don't see him as a guy you're going to put on the line all that often. So I like Michael Williams here.
There we go, Mike.
All right.
We have consensus. So Michael Williams, a true defensive edge, a guy that puts his hand in the dirt, as they say, going to the Carolina Panthers with the 8th pick. So now we find ourselves with the New Orleans Saints. Keith, we'll throw it back to you. The Saints, it's an odd pick. Obviously, Derek Carr is not your quarterback of the future, but they're obviously committed to him at least being there through next year. There's been some rumors about Shadir Sanders with this pick, but they've got a ton of needs. It's pretty clear that cornerback is the biggest area of need for this team. We haven't seen a cornerback come off the board. And so do you think this is the spot where we see our first DB go in the NFL draft?
I do. My top cornerback in this draft right now is Will Johnson. I love his size. He's not the fastest guy, but I think he plays faster than maybe his numbers, the combine would tell you, the numbers of this pro day. But I love his size. I love his physicality. And I think that you've got a Marshawn Latimer type of player. Now, they just traded him to the Commanders, but I think you have a Marshawn Latimer 2.0 here with a guy like Will Johnson. So Will Johnson, he's impressive to me. I do like Jahdae Barron, but I think Jahdae Barron, I see him more as a slot guy. And I see Will Johnson as the guy who's going to, shadow the other team's number one. So Will Johnson's my pick.
I love the pick. Will Johnson played in a great program at Michigan. They run a pro-style defense. Obviously, he's had solid coaching there. So, Jake, do you like Will Johnson here to the Saints, or do you think we see something different?
I like him, but I have them going Shadur Sanders here.
Oh, man.
I know he's not going to like this. I know he's not going to like this. I don't know why. I just see it in my head. I don't know what it is. I just have a gut feeling. If it's not New York, like as in the Jets, I feel like New Orleans makes a little bit of sense. I know like Derek Carr is there. They drafted Spencer Rattler last year, but you got to do something to shake up that quarterback room. Like you have to make a move here. I think New Orleans, he's already expressed he would love to play there. So to me, the Big Easy makes sense. Keith, I love the Will Johnson pick, if not Shadur, but I think they're going Shadur Sanders. I don't know what it is. Just using my gut feeling here.
Jake, fortune favors the bold. I like the pick.
Hey, scared money doesn't make money. So
yeah,
here we go, Mike. you get to be the deciding voice here. Do they go the safe route with Will Johnson? Cornerback is obviously a position of need. He is clearly the best guy in the draft. He's a big body. He can lock guys down. Or do they draft what potentially could be the most contentious pick of the 2025 draft in a guy that could either be a bust or maybe a game-changing generational quarterback? There's no question the bloodlines are there. Is there baggage with Shadir Sanders that is scaring teams away? We don't know. Mike, where do we go here? Sanders or Johnson?
The pressure here to make this decision. First of all, I do not like Deion Sanders being his, look, I love Deion Sanders, but I think you're going to have some issues there with Deion trying to run his life. I do not think they need a quarterback, and Carr had a really good year last year, really good year. So I don't waste this pick on a quarterback here. I'm in agreement with Keith on Will Johnson.
Will Johnson. So Jake, he still is holding hard feelings from you.
That's what it feels like, right? So
it makes sense, though.
He's just to validate, continue to disagree with you.
I get it. Hey, that's totally fine. To validate Keith's point, they did lose Paulson Adebo, and they need to fill that cornerback position. So it does make a lot of sense to go more of a need in Will Johnson. You already do have Derek Carr. You drafted Spencer Rattler last year. I'm just trying to make a little bit of a splash move. They have Kellen Moore, by the way, as their new head coach. So that's a guy that can kind of – and this could play in favor to Derek Carr, right? Or if you drafted a guy like Shador, you can help develop him. So but yeah, that was my reasoning for it. But Will Johnson, very good pick. I will validate it all day.
All right, here we are. The last pick of the top 10. This is our last debatable pick. And so, Mike, this is yours. We've got the Chicago Bears, who I think they were everybody's favorite team, very similar to what it feels like with the New England Patriots this year, where it's like, ooh, they made a lot of moves. Their draft picks, people really liked it, and everybody thought they were going to be good. And it turns out they were dog crap. And so here they are coming back again this year. They'd like to get some weapons. They need some help along the offensive line. They need some help on defense. I feel like it's rinse and repeat for a lot of these teams in terms of positions of need. But Mike, where do you think the Chicago Bears go with here? Is it a splash pick? Do they bring in a guy who can be, a difference maker on the offensive side of the ball, or do you think they go defense?
No, look, Tony, I like what Chicago's been doing, building on both sides of the ball. I do not think their O-line is as bad as what you're saying. They got Joe Tooney during the offseason here. Guy can one of the best guards to play the game. Can play tackle if you need him in a pinch. For me, I want to get Caleb Williams, some more weapons. And I'm going to stick with the consensus pick of Tyler Warren.
Oh,
fantastic year. I was asking you guys, like, he came out of nowhere. Like just a monster year last year. And so I had to hit you guys up earlier about him. And Tony, you saw him at the Fiesta Bowl, and I know you have some things to say about him. But I love this pick. Let's get this kid, and then watch out for the Bears, man.
Well, I mean, he's a big-bodied kid. I think he's like 6'6". He runs like a deer. I don't think he dropped a ball all year. He just the biggest difference for me, obvious, and Jake mentioned this. He was in a situation where he was splitting time between him and two other guys last year. I think at least one of those guys is still playing in the league, was a second-round pick last year. So he obviously was in a situation that wasn't the best for him. But then they bring in a new offensive coordinator, a guy who is a past-first offensive coordinator. All of a sudden, the guy lights the world on fire. I just think he was the best pure offensive weapon on that Penn State team. And so they did a lot of great things schematically to get him open and get him the ball. I think he had a game where he caught like 17 balls. I mean, like, that's insane. Like, that just doesn't happen at the tight end position. So to me, like I told you in our string, I love the pick with Warren here. I think he's a stud. There's some people that think that maybe the kid from Michigan is the better pick, but I'll tell you what, I got to see him in person, and the guy is everything that everybody says he is. So I would have to say I love the Warren pick. Keith, do you think they stick with Warren here, get Caleb Williams, get him as Travis Kelce over the middle that he can turn to, that nice safety blanket when things break down? And we know that Caleb Williams likes to scramble and make things happen. Or do you think they go, more conventional, shore up that offensive line, bring in a guy, by the way, who we thought would be a top 5 pick in Will Campbell that's still on the board? or do they go defense? Where do we go here?
Well, Tyler Warren is one of my favorite players in this draft. I'm a big Penn State guy. I'm a Penn State fan, being from Pennsylvania myself. Love Tyler Warren. He's like Travis Kelce 2.0. Except he's smoother than Travis Kelce. He seems like a smoother athlete.
He is.
He's going to be so good. But
what?
The Bears already have Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet's a pretty good. He's a damn good tight end, actually. And so I think I do see the Bears getting Caleb Williams a weapon, but I think it's going to be a weapon in the backfield. I'm going with Omarion Hampton here.
Oh, wow.
I like Omarion Hampton a lot. I think he can be the thunder to DeAndre Swift's lightning. And you gotta remember, Ben Johnson's coming over there from Detroit. Ben Johnson had a 2 running back system that he was able to get David Montgomery a lot of touches. He was able to get Jahmyr Gibbs. Both those guys ate in that offense. In this Chicago Bears offense, I think you're going to get a dual back set up here, and Omarion Hampton is perfect for what Ben Johnson wants to do on offense. So that's my pick. I don't have much hope of Jake agreeing with me on this, but I love him. I love Omarion Hampton almost as much as I love Ashton Genty, and I think he would be a perfect fit in Chicago.
Hampton is the big body back out of North Carolina. You got Denver and Dallas fans cursing you right now, Keith.
Yes,
one of those two teams was hoping he would fall to them in this draft. Jake, you get to be the deciding vote here.
Man,
do we go with Warren, the best tight end on the board, or Hampton, a guy that could be an every down back, and to Keith's point, really complimentary, where he doesn't have to be a 3-down back. He can be that difference, that stylistic difference in the backfield that we saw used in Detroit over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, offensive line makes a lot of sense too. So we don't want to totally disregard that. I was honestly thinking maybe Will Campbell, but I kind of agree with what Keith was saying. He may be moved inside, and they really did a lot of work to solidify that in free agency. So, I love Tyler Warren. He's unbelievable. But they did just extend Cole Kmet. It was a pretty big contract, too, from what I remember. And I'm not sure if they're going to use that double tight set as much as they would use 2 running backs, because that's what Ben Johnson's sort of known for. So, Mike, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to disagree with you. I'm going to go with Keith. We're going to make a splash move. We're going to go Omarion Hampton. The Lions were, they did kind of a similar thing where they take Jahmyr Gibbs early on at 12 or something like that.
Yeah.
2 years ago, right? And people were like, what the heck is this all about? Now he's one of the best backs in football. You pair him with David Montgomery. They probably want to do something similar there in Chicago. So I think it does make a lot of sense where Keith is coming from. So I'm going to agree with Keith on this. Mike.
Can I say one thing?
I love you.
Tony?
I'm sorry.
Say one thing. I know the agreement's there, but I want to say they have Rashawn Johnson from Texas. There's your dual back. Very good year last year as a rookie. And they got DeAndre Swift. I think it's a bad choice, but it is what it is.
This is why we're doing this, because things like this happen in the draft every single year. Jake gets his revenge in the married couples argument that we're having here tonight. So I think you guys ended up 2-2 in terms of crapping on each other's picks. So good on you. All right. So as we move into picks 11 through 20, we're going to speed things up a little bit. Each one of you guys will be the sole GM to make a decision. We've already got a couple guys still on the board. Warren, Walker, and Campbell, who were top 10 picks, have now fallen out of the top 10. They are available. So I'm curious to see how you guys think this impacts the board going forward here. We got San Francisco on the clock, a team that's aging. Their window, some people says, has closed. There's no argument that it is at least closing. And so they were able to bring some people back off that team. But Jake, where does San Francisco here go with the 11th pick in the draft?
Brother,
I think you go with...
Just to confirm, Omarion Hampton, I'm still steaming, so I really don't even think I heard who the guy was. Omarion Hampton? Is that who we went with?
That's who it is.
I love it.
That hurts.
Now that Mike's derailed you again here, Jake, who do you like to San Francisco with the 11th pick?
I like Jahdae Barron. I like him here. He's the consensus pick, I know, but you lose Charvarius Ward. You got to fill a need there at corner. I know they signed Trey Brown from Seattle, and he's not a bad player whatsoever, but you need to get another guy to pair with Renardo Green. So, you go Jahdae Barron, and I'll tell you what, he could play just about any position in the secondary. So it's a great bonus pick for them. A very solid move. So go Jahdae Barron all day.
Jahdae Barron, again, second best cornerback in the draft, potentially, depending on system and scheme. Obviously highly rated. Mike, you got the 12th pick with Dallas. You lose your running back. He goes to the Bears. But again, you potentially get the wideout that everybody wants you to get with this pick. Where are the Dallas Cowboys going with pick number 12?
I could easily go defensive tackle or edge here, but I'm going to get Dak another weapon. And I hope I say this young man's name right. I don't know. Tatarora McMillan out of Arizona, 6'4", 219. Everyone knows I'm all about 6 foot and above. This guy's 6'4", 219. And he is the number 1 wide receiver in this draft class. It's a no-brainer.
It's a great pick, Mike.
Randy Moss comps for this kid.
Hey,
I mean,
you
he's
can't
big,
make up. You
he's
can't
long.
make up now, Jake. Don't give me any kudos now. Okay, we're well past that.
Yeah, Jake, you're off the Christmas list. That's been established.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah. All right, Keith, your boys, the Miami Dolphins, are on the board at 13. So we're going to give you a little extra time to wax poetically on this pick.
Yep.
You've wanted an offensive lineman. And here we go. Will Campbell, top 10 pick. You've got Banks sitting out there. You've got your pick from a plethora of very talented offensive linemen. But who do you think the Fins take here with the 13th pick?
I mean,
I'm going to derail Keith here real quick because I'm so steamed. I'm falling behind in the picks. Who do we take for San Francisco?
Jahdae Barron.
Jahdae Barron.
Okay.
There we go. Thank you, Mike.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate that.
Let me catch up. There we go. We're caught up. Sorry, Keith.
He was so pissed off that all of his picks have been
still.
crapped
It's crazy.
I can see the steam coming out of Mike's ears right
this
now.
One, I'm excited about this. So this is the Dolphins. This is Keith's guys, man. Let's see what he goes for. I'm interested.
All right. So look, last year we did a live draft show here on Nickel City Mafia, and I was pounding the table for a guard. I was pounding the table for Graham Barton, who went a couple picks after the Dolphins pick to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I was pounding the table for Jackson Powers Johnson, who went a couple picks later to the Oakland Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders, I should say. I was pounding the table for Cooper Beebe, who went in the second round to the Dallas Cowboys. I am pounding the table for a guard this year. Now, we had Dudley Durong on the Fins Forecast show a few weeks ago, and he said the Dolphins don't like to take non-premier positions in the first round, like a guard. He likes to go, like he said, he basically pointed out that Chris Greer likes to go with an edge rusher or cornerback or, even a tackle. He doesn't like to go guard. I'm bucking the trend here because if a guy like Will Campbell, if guy like Will Campbell falls into your lap at 13, you have no choice but to run up with the card and draft him. Will Campbell is at guard. He has all pro potential. He's a nasty blocker. He's, his shorter arms aside, they fit perfectly at guard. Put him at right guard, and reap the rewards for the next decade. Will Campbell is an easy pick for me here. And by the way, if this is how the board plays out and the Dolphins don't draft Will Campbell, my head's going to explode. My head is going to explode on draft night.
Wow, I love the pick. Again, to your point, arguably rated as the best pure offensive lineman in the draft class, falls to you at 13. I think you run to the podium. I couldn't agree with you more. I love the pick. I think it's a great fit.
I wasn't planning on drafting an offensive lineman coming into the night because I didn't think that a guy like Will Campbell is going to fall to us. But he did, and I'd be an idiot not to do this.
I love the pick. I absolutely love it. Jake, back on the board, the Indianapolis Colts, 8-9 last year. Pretty interesting team in that they signed Daniel Jones away from the Vikings. We don't really know if it's going to be him or Richardson at quarterback this year. They have a ton of needs. It was pretty highly touted that they loved Loveland, the tight end here, but all of a sudden Warren's available, right? So you've got the guy that everybody thought would be drafted in the first 10 picks. He falls into your lap, much like Will Campbell. Do you think they take Warren at this pick?
Absolutely. You're going to take your first tight end since Dallas Clark in the first round. It makes too much sense here. For him to fall to 14, the Colts have got to be licking their chops. They're running to the podium. You are taking Tyler Warren. I mean, really, you look at who the Colts have at the tight end position right now. Drew Ogletree and Jelani Woods are their two guys that are potentially competing for spots at the tight end position. So to me, it just makes too much sense. You go and you take Tyler Warren. No questions asked. Boom. There's your pick.
I love the pick. Like I said, I couldn't have said more things good about him earlier when we were talking about him potentially to the Bears. I think it makes all the sense in the world. Mike, with the Atlanta Falcons, we have you here at the 15th pick. Just missed out on the playoffs last year, but obviously not a very good team. Ton of questions. They feel like they've got their guy quarterback in Penix. But again, the defense was a sieve, absolutely terrible. It's been one of the worst defenses for the last 4 or 5 years in football. Do you think that they shore up the defensive side of the football, or maybe potentially with some guys on the board here? There's some good offensive tackles here that are available. Some guys also with some potential on the edge. Where do you think the Falcons go with this pick?
This is an easy one, Tony. Their O-line's pretty good. Center struggled a little bit. They got Nuzil there at center, but the rest of the guys are fantastic. You got a great running back. You got your quarterback of the future. You've got some great weapons on the wide receiver. You got Kyle Pitts at tight end. Not Kyle Pitts, but you got
Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, that's Kyle Pitts. Sorry. Yeah, Kyle Pitts at tight end. You're running to the podium and you're taking a defensive player. And my defensive player, I know the consensus was let me go here real quick.
Yeah, Shamar Stewart.
Yeah, yes. But I'm not going with him because I haven't really agreed with much of your consensus picks, or not many of them. I'm going with James Pierce out of Tennessee for reasons, dude. The guy ran a sub 4.540. He had the quickest 10-yard split, 1.56 seconds. This dude's electric, and he's definitely going to be a game changer for this team. So, James Pierce.
I like the pick. It's not bad. I mean, you still got a guy like Jalen Walker, who was, again, a top 10 pick that's now he's been skipped over twice by teams that are drafting edges. So, Pierce is an interesting pick. For me, with defensive linemen and guys off the edge, it all comes down to scheme. It depends to me what you want that guy to do and whether or not he fits in your system. I like the pick at Pierce. It is a little bit off the board compared to the consensus, but because you're the GM, Mike, you make the call. And so we have Pierce going to the Falcons with the 15th pick. On to Arizona in the NFC West. Interesting team, Keith, in the Cardinals. A team that at times look really, really good and other times look absolutely terrible. Obviously, they have their quarterback of the future, who we weren't sure coming off an injury and some disputes about contract, whether or not he would be there. But seems like things have kind of leveled off. And so where do you think the Cardinals go with this pick?
I'm still not entirely sure about Kyler Murray. I don't know what he is. I don't know what his ceiling is anymore. But they have to try and make this work with him. They brought in Marvin Harrison Jr. in the draft last year. And I think Marvin Harrison Jr., he kind of underperformed, relative to his expectations, but relative to most rookie wide receivers, he was right on par with those guys. So I think, it's incumbent upon their offensive coordinator to scheme ways to get him open more often next season. But I also think it's incumbent upon the Cardinals to kind of, take some pressure off of Marvin Harrison Jr. and bring in another wide receiver to kind of take some focus away from him. So in that spirit, and I actually intended to go defensive line with this pick, but I love Matthew Golden, wide receiver out of Texas.
Great pick.
I love Matthew Golden. I think he's going to be a great Robin to Marvin Harrison Jr.'s Batman for years to come. And it's going to be fun to watch these two cook with Kyler Murray. So Matthew Golden's my pick for the Arizona Cardinals.
I love the pick, man. They made some of their bigger moves on the defensive side of the football in terms of free agency here. Yeah. So they brought in some guys to shore it up. So why not take a young offensive team that is highly explosive and add some more pieces to that. Matthew Golden to the Arizona Cardinals. And again, we just looking at the teams and the Falcons, the Cardinals, the Bengals, a run potentially of defensive players here because their defenses were so bad trying to backfill. But here you are, the Cincinnati Bengals, Jake, and you need to replace some things on defense. Their offense looked fantastic. They have a ton of weapons. They re-signed everybody, but their defense is absolutely terrible. And so you've got some options here. The way the board is kind of filtered through, you've still got Jalen Walker, who, again, top 10 pick, still sitting on the board. You've got a couple offensive linemen. You've got Shamar Stewart, another guy who was a fringe top 10 pick sitting there. Where do you think the Bengals go with the 17th pick?
Well, I'm going to say something. I'm going to go with the best available pass rusher left on the board, and that's Mike Green out of Marshall.
Wow.
What I saw from this kid is so impressive to me. I know he's the consensus pick on your sheet here, Tone, but I couldn't agree more. And, I know Jalen Walker and some other guys are on the board, Jihad Campbell even, that you could potentially take here. I just feel like he's a great fit. You pair him with Trey Hendrickson. We don't even know what's going to happen with Trey Hendrickson. So you're going to need a guy. You're going to need an absolute stud. Sam Hubbard retired. You have Joseph Osai. You have some other guys there that can rush the passer, but nothing quite like Mike Green outside of Trey Hendrickson, who's unreal, by the way. But again, he's not very happy with the situation. He talked about it a little bit on McAfee last week. Mike Green makes too much sense. 17 sacks last year at Marshall. Production through the roof. I think Gail Golden is going to be licking his chops with a guy like this. Mike Green is the pick.
I love it. It's a great pick. He's a great defensive scheme fit. The Bengals should be very, very happy with him coming off the edge. Mike, Keith in Arizona sniped your guy that I think they thought they would fall into their lap. They were hoping to get a wide receiver potentially because the cupboard's pretty bare in Seattle right now. You bring in Sam Darnold, you sign him for $100 million, and you bring in a couple name guys, right? You bring in MBS, you bring in Cooper Kupp, but those guys, again, Kupp is long past his prime, and NBS is nothing more than a really good number 3, in my opinion. So there's not a lot of options. You're a defensive coach here. Where do you think Seattle goes? Do you think they go and get a defensive player? Obviously, we talked about some of the available edges that are still on the board, deepest position in the class this year. Or do you think now, because you've seen the top 2 wide receivers go, that maybe they stretch? Maybe they go and get a big tight end and run a 2 or 3 tight end set to try and get some matchups? Do they bring in a wide receiver that's maybe a little farther down the board? Where does Seattle Seahawks go with this pick, Mike?
Well, Seattle is sending me a Christmas card for taking James Pierce at pick 15. They're like, Jalen Walker is still out there. And yes, GM Mike missed that, so shame on him. They're going Jalen Walker. I don't even know how this guy fell this far, honestly.
Yeah.
You got to take him here. Their defense, I mean, they're building something nice on the offensive side. They got Cooper Kupp, they got Sam Darnold, big year last year. We'll see how he does here. But defensive side, I think could use somebody off the edge, somebody strong. This is a great pick for them. Jalen Walker all day.
Love the pick. Now we get into basically the playoff teams. These are the better teams. Obviously, Tampa Bay won their division last year to make it into the playoffs. Some questions for Tampa Bay. They need some help on defense. Obviously, they've got their quarterback for the foreseeable future in Baker Mayfield, so probably nothing splash happening there. They've got very good running backs. They've still got a cavalcade of pretty good wide receivers. So you feel like, Keith, maybe this isn't an offensive pick. This is a defensive pick. Some very good guys still on the board from the edge positions. We know linebacker is a massive position of need here, and we haven't seen a linebacker come off the board. Where does Tampa Bay go with this pick?
Well, I'm going to date myself a little bit here. I'm going to age myself a little bit here. And I still remember the days of Derek Brooks and Hardy Nickerson. Those Tampa 2 Monty Kiffin defenses that had some great linebacker play. And then I look at a guy like Jihad Campbell. And this guy is a throwback type of linebacker. I love this guy's game. He's coming off a torn rotator cuff, so he's falling down boards. I think Jihad Campbell, if he's fully healthy, he's a top 10 pick, guys. I love Jihad Campbell here. And so I think the Bucs are getting a steal. with this guy.
Look at that height and weight too, Mike. 6'3",
Yeah,
244.
it's a great pick. I'm drooling here. This is fantastic.
Yeah, this guy is. He's a thumper, man. He's a thumper in the middle, and he's gonna solidify this Tampa Bay defense. He's their next Hardy Nickerson. Their next Derek Brooks. You know, this is a no-brainer for me. They run to the podium with this pick.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because in recent years, both running back and linebacker, similarly, the draft equity, like what people want to invest in those positions, is really diminished over the last like 5 to 6 years. It just has. And so not a lot of teams have invested in first round picks. And to be honest, the level of talent really hasn't been there, sans a few guys. But to your point, this pick makes all the sense in the world. I mean, you know, again, we talked about a little bit about Aston Genty being the best player at his position, head and shoulders. There's no question Campbell is the best linebacker in this draft. I think it's not even close. It's by a mile. So I love the pick. I think it's a great pick. Jake, we go over to Colorado and the Denver Broncos, probably the surprise team of the 2024 NFL season. They have their quarterback. They have some weapons. They were hoping that a running back would fall to them at this position, and it has not happened. 2 running backs go in the first 10 picks of the draft. And so here you are, Denver, with the 20th pick, a wild card team. You think you're building something in Denver. Where do the Broncos go with this pick?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. I mean, Omarion Hampton was the consensus pick here, but he got picked at 10. So I think they're going to have to reach a little bit. And I don't know if it's so much of a reach, but Sean Payton loves backs that are able to be multidimensional in an offense. And TreVeyon Henderson makes a lot of sense here. So I'm going to go TreVeyon Henderson at running back here. He can catch passes out of the backfield just as well as anyone in this class. So to me, I know our boy Cody Smith is not a huge TreVeyon Henderson fan, but I think it makes sense based on the situation. You pair him with Jaleel McLaughlin, Audric Estime. You have some good backs there that can rotate, and I think it's perfect for that Sean Payton offense. That offense building a little bit. They signed Evan Ingram in the offseason. You got Marvin Mims, who's really an up-and-coming receiver. Still have Cortland Sutton, Devon Bailey. They got some players, man. Go take TreVeyon Henderson. It's a good move.
I like the pick. Again, he's kind of got that kind of one first or second round draft grade, so a little bit of a stretch, but we saw 2 backs go, and so all of a sudden now his stock becomes a premium. To your point, obviously a really good pick, but we'll see. TreVeyon Henderson to the Denver Broncos with the 20th pick. Keith, we are back out in the great state of Pennsylvania, but not necessarily in Philly. The Pittsburgh Steelers are on the board, and tons of questions for the Steelers at the quarterback position. A lot of people have said they really like Jackson Dart, but guess what? Shadir Sanders is still sitting out there. The phone isn't ringing. He's doing his best impersonation of Aaron Rodgers, flipping that phone open, hoping somebody's going to talk to him. His agent is texting him. Where do the Pittsburgh Steelers go with this pick?
I think this is Mike's pick, isn't it?
No.
Oh, it's not Mike's pick?
No, Tony, Pittsburgh Steelers. I got you.
Tony switched it up a little bit.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I did switch it up just a little bit.
All right, fair enough. Well, if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, and if Shedeur Sanders is still on the board, this is as far as he falls. Pittsburgh needs a quarterback. I think Aaron Rodgers is probably going to Pittsburgh eventually. We'll see. But they do need a young quarterback to kind of groom behind him. And Shedeur Sanders, it just needs to be the pick here. So, you know, they're remiss if they don't do this. This is as far as he falls. I've gone on record. I'm not a big fan of Shedeur Sanders at all. If I'm the Steelers GM, I'm probably going in a different direction. But you need to go Shedeur Sanders here because he probably will.
This is the splash pick of this draft right here. This would have the NFL world buzzing if Mike Tomlin and Deion Sanders collab here for Shadir Sanders in Pittsburgh. I dig the pick. I love it, man. It's there's no question that he is a very good football player. There are questions about his arm strength, about his mobility, those kinds of things. But again, I think the one thing you can say in a Tomlin offense is that they do a pretty good job of protecting the quarterback. Obviously, they've been struggling to find an identity there since Roethlisberger has left. They draft old small hands Kenny Pickett. That didn't work out so well. Mike highlighted it. Small hands and cold balls don't mix. But Shadir Sanders here to the Pittsburgh Steelers with this pick. And I feel like, Mike, that the LA Chargers will be sprinting to the podium to make this pick. Obviously, their coach, Jim Harbaugh, came from the University of Michigan. He has made it very, very clear that Loveland was one of his favorite recruits of all time. And so you've got the tight end in Colston Loveland sitting there, falling into your lap with this pick. Do you think that the Chargers will take him, or do they go another direction? Because they do need some help at wide receiver. They do need some help along the defensive front. They lost a lot of guys in free agency.
Lost Joey Bosa. Thankfully, they lost Joey Bosa because
he
became a Buffalo Bill. Dude, I don't want to make this pick because I think I'm hoping Jake's picking up the phone for the Buffalo Bills and trying to move up here. But I think they are sprinting to the podium, Tony, but not for who you think. They're going with the big defensive tackle, Kenneth Grant, out of Michigan. Why not?
I like it.
Why wouldn't?
Damn.
Hey, I love the Michigan pick. The kid is
Terrible,
an absolute
Mike.
thumper, a run stopper.
You didn't make the call, Jake. I didn't get a phone call.
I know.
I was hoping, you gotta be talking to me.
All right, I love it. We're moving along here. Pick number 23, Jake, to the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, a wild card team last year. They feel like they've got their guy in Love, obviously, behind center. And so the positions of need for them are clearly on the defensive side of the football. But you could see a move where they go out and get a wide receiver. Obviously, they could use a few more weapons across the edges there for them. But where do you like the Green Bay Packers going with this pick at number 23?
Well, we know the Green Bay Packers do not select wide receivers in the first round, so I'm just going to totally outlaw that pick right off the bat, okay? I'm going to go to the defensive side of the ball. It's not a sexy pick at all, but I think he's a sexy player that people should be talking a little bit more about, and that's Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M, defensive end. Would be a perfect fit in this defense. To me, his size really speaks volumes. I was really going between him or Donovan Ezeraku, but Ezeraku was a little bit undersized. I don't think he fits as well in the scheme. You have Rashawn Gary on the other side, and then you have Shamar Stewart who can play. This guy's combine numbers, I had to look him up again. 4.59, 40-yard dash, 40-inch vertical, 10'11" broad jump. Guy's 6'5", 267, freak of nature. Would be a great fit there in Green Bay. Add some pass rushing prowess. And while the production isn't crazy at A&M, I think he would be a fantastic fit for them. So to me, he's going to be at a play at a super high level there in Green Bay. Shamar Stewart.
Love the pick. Back to you, Keith, for the Minnesota Vikings here with pick number 24. The Vikings also a loser in the wild card round, but again, building some things. They've ended the Sam Darnold era in Minnesota, and so such begins the McCarthy era at quarterback. But the Vikings could use some help on the defensive side of the football. With all that being said, just to recap here how the board has fallen, you've got an offensive tackle in Banks, a tight end in Loveland that are still available, guys that were fringe top 10 picks, still on the board, maybe not positions in need for the Vikings, but again, a ton of weapons and options here on the defensive side of the football. Where do the Vikings go with this pick, Keith?
Well, I look at the best player on the Minnesota Vikings the past decade has been Harrison Smith, safety out of Notre Dame. Getting on in years, there was some question as to whether or not he was going to come back this year. And he ultimately did decide to come back. But how about we get him an apprentice? How about we get him a guy that plays a similar game to him, and he kind of takes over for him once he retires? Because I do think this is Harrison Smith's last season in Minnesota. I'm going with Nick Emenwari, the safety out of South Carolina. Love this guy's game. He's a real thumper. He's a real kind of strong safety, linebacker hybrid type of guy. Ran a 4.38 at the combine. Just love this guy's game, and I think he's a faster, potentially more physical Harrison Smith. A perfect replacement for him. So that's my pick.
I love the pick. The kid's 6'3", he's 220, and it ran a sub 4.40. I mean, that's insane. I mean, he's almost big enough to play outside backer in the league, and you have him playing strong safety. I love the pick. I think he's a great fit for their scheme. We are on to Houston. Mike, how do I say this? The Texans were probably the best team in football in that they just look god awful at times. and somehow they find their way into the divisional round of football. There's some questions, I think, that are starting to emerge at the quarterback position after they had a clear guy that was maybe their consensus guy. But Houston's here. They can make some clear upgrades across the offensive line because they do have some holes, but they do have a defensive coach, and their defense was pretty stout last year. Why not double down on that? Be the best defense in football. Where do you think the Houston Texans go with the 25th pick in the draft?
Hey, is Cody still out there? Cody?
He is. He said, don't mess this up.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Here we go, baby.
Look, the offensive line's horrible. The offensive line is absolutely horrible. So I'm going offensive line. The big question that I'm struggling with is who to take. Now, Josh Simmons would have been that guy automatically, but he missed most of the 2024 season after tearing a patella tendon. And they're saying that he'll be ready. He would be the guy. So I'm torn, Cody. I'm going to kind of talk small talk here for a little bit. So I want you to, say if you like that pick or if you like someone else. But we're going offensive line for sure. We're going tackle. Talk to me, sir. Talk to me out there. Let me see here. Let's go offensive tackles. Let me see who else is out there real quick. Yeah, I'm gonna say, did he chime in yet? Did he chime in?
He just said, "Don't mess it up." He's looking for you to take the responsibility with any feedback.
All right.
There you go. If the meds checked out, it's Josh Simmons.
Yep, that's what I was saying. Okay, coming off the injury, Josh Simmons is the guy. A little bit of a gamble here, but I like to gamble. Here we go, Josh Simmons.
You need a replacement for Tunsil, right? They traded him away, so this is obvious. The guy Tunsil's going to go smoke weed in somebody else's locker room from now on, and so you replace him with a young guy that maybe needs some healing, but that's okay. That's what we do here. Jake, the Rams here at 26. They've done really well. I think of any of the teams, you could say that probably the last 5 to 7 years, the Rams have consistently drafted quality players that match what they do schematically, both offensive and defensively. It's amazing because to see what they've done as a blueprint for how you regenerate a franchise year after year. They could use some help. Obviously, they don't have Kupp. They could use a wide receiver. They could use some help along the defensive backfield. But like I said, you got a guy like Loveland. The tight end, again, I realize they have a pretty good tight end there, but I mean, Loveland's fallen here. You've got some options. Where do you think the Rams go with this pick?
Yeah, the Colston Loveland thing, I know he's been rumored to the Rams and mocked to the Rams in so many different mock drafts, but I just don't like Tyler Higbee is a quality tight end. I don't know what happened. Yeah. I know he's been injured and whatnot. And even Colby Parkinson, everyone was, including myself, Cody could probably vouch for this. I think everyone was suggesting he would be blowing up there in that Rams offense, and it just never happened, while he was replacing Tyler Higbee. So I still think they have two solid tight ends there. And, for the amount of money they're paying them, it's, you got to get the most out of those guys. So I'm not ready to take a tight end in the first round here for them. I'm going to go on the defensive side of the ball. I mulled over potentially taking a receiver, but I'm not going to do that either. I think Tutu Atwell, they paid a little bit of money to bring back. So they have him solidified as their starting slot receiver. So to me, I'm going to go cornerback here. I'm going to go Maxwell Hairston. Now, I think the only thing that really concerns me with him is that he missed 5 games last year with a shoulder injury. But I'll tell you what, I've been watching a ton of tape on this kid. People have him being mocked to the Buffalo Bills. He could play in any scheme defensively, and he's a true outside corner. They need cornerback help there. It makes a lot of sense. I know he doesn't look super highly ranked on this chart, but trust me, he is a first-round cornerback. Maxwell Hairston's my pick for the Rams.
I want to throw a flag, personal foul. The only reason Jake's not taking Trey Amos is because he wants him for the Buffalo Bills. So, flag on the play.
I actually like Hairston a little bit better, to be honest with you, but I love Amos as well. He'd be a great fit.
I don't know, Jake. All right, here we go.
All right, Keith, back to you. The Baltimore Ravens, obviously another disappointing year in not winning the Super Bowl, but that's the standard they've created for themselves there in Baltimore. They could use some help up front. There were a lot of times this year that, Lamar was back there running for his life, trying to make things happen. And again, they've had a blueprint for building just defensive powerhouses in the NFL. But, they could use some help across the offensive front. Maybe an edge here. There are some quality players that have now kind of fallen into the lap. But where do you think Baltimore goes with the 27th pick?
Yeah, the Ravens are an annoying team to me because they always seemingly do the right thing in the first round, and uh, this this to me feels like they're going to go with a guy who's got one of the highest floors in this draft, in Gray Zabel. Gray
Wow.
Zabel, offensive guard, out of North Dakota State. I like this guy's game, and I think he's one of those guys who we're gonna look at him 10 years down the road and say, yeah, this guy he's probably much further up than that.
They have him listed at tackle on here.
Yeah,
Mike.
they do.
He's going to kick inside though at the next level.
He's definitely going to be a guard. But I think we're going to look at his career 10 years from now, and we're going to say, oh yeah, he made 3 Pro Bowls, and he was just a solid, steady contributor for the Ravens all throughout his career, and that's just going to annoy me because the Ravens just pick guys like this all the time. So I think he's the pick for them.
I love the pick.
Yeah.
To your point, doing the right thing is how you build long-term success in the NFL, and the Ravens have proven over and over again that they're not afraid to avoid the sexy pick to make the right pick. So I think it's a solid analysis here. And again, we're changing up the order a little bit, but we'll go here with Mike. Mike, the Detroit Lions, obviously it was Super Bowl or bust for them last year. Turns out it was bust. And they get beat in the divisional round. But they need some help along the defensive line. It just feel like if they don't draft a defensive player with this pick, and maybe it's not defensive line, maybe it's a safety, maybe it's a cornerback, but it feels like they have weapons up front. They lose both coordinators. But where do you think the Lions end up landing with the pick at number 28?
They're running to the podium and they're going. I'm looking at their team. They had one of the best offensive lines in the league last year, if not the best. They need somebody off the edge, and of course that's Donovan. Help me out with that name.
Ezraku.
What is it?
Ezraku.
All right, love this guy. 6'3", 248, 16 and a half sacks in 2024. Little undersized, but hey, he's gonna bring the heat. Love it. Lock it in.
Ezraku off the edge. We've still got guys like Shamar Stewart still available, still on the board.
No, he's not available, Tone.
Nope.
I took him.
Oh, that's right. You did. That's right. He is not available. I apologize. I forgot to mark him off our board. But there still is a few edges on here, and a team, Keith, that needs some help along the defensive front end. Edges, the Washington. I almost said Redskins. I was this close.
Ooh.
And I know you can't say that, but the Commanders here, obviously, kind of that Cinderella team last year. They make some moves and bring in Deebo Samuel. Some people wanting them to get some more weapons on the offensive side of the football. But again, much like the Detroit Lions, they need lots of help on the defensive side of the football. Do you think they go defense with this pick?
I do. I think this is a clear case of where they need help all 3 levels of defense. And I think, they kind of, when they were tanking, when they drafted second overall, they took Jaden
Daniels.
Jaden Daniels. Thank you. I'm sorry. Jaden Daniels with the second overall pick. They traded away guys like Chase Young, like Montez Sweat on the defensive line, and now they're down another defensive tackle. So I want to go Malachi Starks here, but I'm not going to. I'm going to go with Walter Nolan, defensive tackle.
Ooh,
out of Mississippi.
Nolan's a stud. I mean, again, when you talk about shoring the defensive front, like he is that guy. Like it's not a sexy pick because they want an edge. They want a guy who can put pressure on the quarterback, who can fly and demand the double and the chip. But going inside and shoring up the defensive front is the right move for this franchise.
Well, Jonathan Allen left this offseason. Again, Montez Sweat was traded away, as was Chase Young. They just need some help along the defensive line. So Walter Nolan just feels like the pick here for them. I almost went with Malachi Stark for them, though.
I like the pick, though. All right, here we go. This is the big one, Jake. For the whole shakeup and how Keith had to change some things. Mike's pissed that I gave you this pick anyways, but we're going to do it because you're my boy. The Buffalo Bills, fresh off a very, very disappointing loss in the conference championship. Obviously, a lot of high hopes with that team again this year. But you've got an interesting draft board the way that it's fallen. Where do you think the Bills go with this pick?
I'm actually going to trade with the Kansas City Chiefs here.
And then let them draft it how you want?
Kidding. I'm going Derek Harmon. Walter Nolan would have been my other choice here, but I am starting up front. I'm going interior defensive line. You want to talk about a guy with an absolute motor and a really good athlete? Derek Harmon is your guy. He's a day one starter. He fits in this defense. He could play the 3-tech or he could play 1-tech. Didn't do a ton of it at Oregon, but I feel pretty confident that he can do it. I know there's been a lot of pro comps thrown out there of him being similar to that of Daquan Jones, who, by the way, that's who he's going to replace. So to me, it makes a lot of sense to go Derek Harmon here. I really like this kid a lot. I think he'd be a great fit in the defense. And you start up front, you build back. I know corner is probably the most glaring need right now. If you look at the depth chart, we have our cornerback 2 is Dane Jackson, and no disrespect to Dane, but I don't know if you want to be rolling into the season with him as your number 2 corner. But we have 2 second-round picks. We can do some damage with those picks too. I feel like you got to get a stud interior defensive lineman here, cause a little bit of disruption, and get your guy in Derek Harmon. If it's not Kenneth Grant, it's Derek Harmon for me. So, or Walter Nolan potentially, but this just made too much sense. So Derek Harmon it is.
Mike, I'm going to give you a chance here. What do you think of this pick? Jake's made the pick. It's locked. We've got it written down. They got him in back, taking pictures with the commissioner, holding up his number 1 jersey. But I'd love to hear your feedback on this pick.
Nah, I'm for him. I love the kid. So we needed, like I had said, first 2 rounds, we need to focus on defense. And this is the guy that keeps falling. He's a fantastic athlete. So I'm with Jake here in agreement.
Arm length too. They put a lot. I don't know what it is, but the Buffalo Bills front office will not draft a defensive lineman that has under like 32-inch arms. He's got 34 and 3/8-inch arms. So that goes a long way. You extend those arms a little bit. He's tough to get a hold on. I'll tell you what. I love Derek Harmon. He's like kind of similar to Kyle Williams with his motor, a little bit bigger, and he's going to fit really well on the defense. So just going to echo that a little bit more. Love him.
Absolutely love the pick. Mike, your second favorite team in the NFL here with the 30th pick in the draft. Obviously, absolutely embarrassed in the Super Bowl. And a team that's kind of, I wouldn't say at a crossroads because they're not. They still have their quarterback. They still have their coach. But obviously some changes and some things happening there on the offensive side, on the defensive side. Where do you think the Chiefs go here? I mean, the Chiefs have been known to make splash picks with these late first round and late second round picks. Who do you like the Kansas City Chiefs picking with the 30th pick in the draft?
Well, I'm glad you gave me this one. I had a little fun with this. Weston's out there. Don't know where Chad is, but Weston. And Weston knows I love this guy. Did not think he would creep up into the first round, but Weston also said he was mocked too as Chiefs. I forget who mocked him recently.
Oh, I know where you're going.
This kid, 6'6", 264. I've told you if this kid can jump, it has a 40.5-inch vertical. Higher. It was the highest. And he also, I think it was like the second is the record behind Myles Garrett for somebody that was that big. 40.5-inch vertical, and you're already 6'6". He also had a 10'9". Was that the broad jump? Yeah. So this dude, I love him. You know what's funny is that Jonah is the guy. It's my kid, 12-year-old. Put me onto this guy, and he's going to be my watch all year. I don't know. The Bills aren't going to probably get him unless he fell deep into the second round. That was my only hope. But he's moving up the board. Landon Jackson from Arkansas, 6'6", 264. Dude is a beast. Run stopper. Obviously, he needs to work a little bit on his pass rush, but he'll get there with that athleticism. So welcome to the Kansas City Chiefs, Landon Jackson.
Yeah, Jackson, a great pick. I mean, don't get me wrong. Physical specimen, absolute freak. It just feels like the rich get richer in this kid landing in their lap. Keith, bring us home, dude. The man from Philly, who is not a Philly fan, he is a Finn fan, but here we are, the Philadelphia Phillies, the Eagles drafting with the last pick in the draft. And obviously, Philadelphia, they've got their wide receivers, they've got their running back, they've got all the sexy positions covered. With that being said, there's still some positions need, especially on the defensive side of the football. Bring us home, the last pick in the first round of the draft. Who do the Eagles select with this pick?
You know, it's actually kind of insane that the board played out like this, because this is the Eagles' essentially ideal scenario right here. Just bear with me here. Here's all the players on the Eagles defense who went to Georgia. Jalen Carter, Lewis Seen, who they signed away from the Buffalo Bills this offseason. Jordan Davis, N'Kobe Dean, Azeez Ojulari, who they signed away from the New York Giants this offseason. Keely Ringo, Nolan Smith. It's insane. And now Malachi Starks, a position of need, by the way, because Chauncey Gardner-Johnson moved on this offseason after getting into a bit of a Twitter beef with Darius Slay. It's insane that Malachi Starks falls to them at the end of the first round. They have a needed safety, and a safety from Georgia falls all the way to him. It's
unbelievable.
It feels like fate. It feels like it's just, and I can hear it now. The Eagles fans all across the Delaware Valley just absolutely pumping their chest this pick and whooping it up. And if this happens, I might just have to leave the state for a few days. So yeah, Malachi Starks is the pick, guys.
I mean, you got to love it. I mean, to your point, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, and now this kid. I mean, that is, again, you've got three of the best potentially young defensive backs in all of professional football on your team. Yep. That is crazy.
The rich get richer, man.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's going to wrap the first round, guys. I gotta give you a big hand here, because I think you guys did a great job of navigating kind of how the board developed over time. Mike's got it pulled up there, who we selected here in the first round. Is there anything that surprises you about how things developed in the course of this draft?
Yeah, I'm surprised Will Campbell fell to 13. I am. I think on draft night, there's no way that happens. And I'm not sure how it happened here. But Will Campbell falling to 13, if that happens, I will be so elated. I will jump out of my chair if that happens.
Jake, how about you? Anything that jumps out? I know you made the Shadir Sanders call to the Saints, but anything other than that kind of jumps off here?
I would say Kelvin Banks going as early as he did here, but it is a perfect fit for him. You know, he'll probably play right tackle there if he does get drafted at 7. I think he is rising up on a lot of boards, but seeing him there and being picked over guys like Will Campbell and some others, Tyler Booker also not being drafted in the first round, kind of interesting. Yeah. Offensive line was probably the most interesting bit of selections in this first round. Those selected and not selected, I should say.
I think Tyler Booker is also very scheme specific because he's a mauler. So you don't want to put him in his own scheme. I've loved him for the Dolphins, and then it's like, does he really fit with them? You know?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. The thing for me is who didn't get drafted. Like Loveland not going in the first round is shocking to me. Like that, I thought for sure like he may even find his way into the top 10 depending on how things develop. So, you know, and just kind of how things fell for him to fall into the second round. You got to think teams with early second round picks are absolutely licking their chops thinking that this kid could be available in the second round.
Well, you know, Tony, when it comes to Loveland, I almost took him for the Eagles with the 32nd pick. Yeah. Dallas Goedert's probably not coming back to the Eagles next season.
Yeah.
He might be a June 1st cut. He might get traded. So they do have a need at tight end, and Loveland would have been a perfect pick for them there. Just Malachi Starks was even more perfect.
Yeah, best available on the board.
The Eagles always walk into these great tight ends, too, for as long as I can remember. You go back to, like, Chad Lewis, and then after that, they get freaking Brent Selleck, and then Zach Ertz, and then you got Dallas Goedert. It's like they always have a good tight end no matter what. So they'll find one. It's only a matter of time. You know, maybe it's Tyree Jackson, former University of Buffalo quarterback. Just saying.
Or Mason Taylor. Mason Taylor, the son of Jason Taylor.
Yeah.
Love it, Mike.
Nephew of Zach Thomas.
Mike, what do you think here? Like, it's to kind of close us out and take us home here. Anything that surprised you other than Jake disagreeing with you every possible chance that he had the opportunity to?
I think Shedeur Sanders fallen to 21. A little bit of surprise. There was talks that the Giants are interested in him. The guy I picked for the Chiefs, Landon Jackson, he's been jumping up the boards after that combine. And again, I love the kid, but probably a little bit of a surprise here for most people. But otherwise, I think the guys did a fantastic job.
But, you know, Mike, you said about Landon Jackson, you know, his vertical just shows how explosive an athlete this guy is at 360 pounds. It's insane. So, I mean, he has been flying upwards. I could totally see him going with that pick.
Yeah.
And you know, sure. and you know, Weston's out there. He's whooping it up.
He loves it. He loves it. Oh yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, boys, you did a great job. We worked our way through all 32 selections in the first round. I appreciate all the feedback and insight that you guys provided. I loved the discourse when we got into picks where we didn't have consensus across the board. And that's what this show is all about. Remember, if you guys like what we did here, give us a thumbs up on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. If you didn't, put a note down in the comments, tell us where we're wrong, where we had no idea what we're talking about. But boys, thanks again for participating in that, especially you guys out there on the East Coast where it is very late. Please like, subscribe, and follow both the Nickel City Mafia channel and, of course, Keith and the Finns. Please give them a follow as well. Thank you very much. Everybody have a great night, and let's see how this comes out in 3 weeks with the draft. Let's see if we nailed it pick for pick. Thanks again, guys, and have a great evening.
Take 5, round 2 coming up.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.